Well, good evening. I'm glad to see everybody here. It was a little warmer today than yesterday, and it's supposed to get warmer as the week goes on. Praise God for that. I tell you what, let's start with some praise reports.
I have a praise report. I've had a TV sitting in my closet for the last 5 years. It's only been out of the box twice. And a friend, I was telling a friend about it, and they bought it. But when I looked at how much cash they give me, it was exactly what I had paid for it 5 years ago. And I praise God for that.
Well,
Praise God.
I went to United and got some stuff, and I met a young lady there. She only spoke Spanish. So I spoke to her, and we talked and everything. And I was looking at the gross, adding things up compared to what I had on hand for cash. And so I put a couple things back, and she went to her purse and dropped me $2. And she says, "Do you want that?" Because they're 80. And I said, "Yeah, I'd like to." And so she heard $2. And that was a great blessing.
Good.
Yeah, that's good.
Anybody else?
Candy has strep and 2 kinds of colds, and she got a insulin shot yesterday, but she's so much better. She's hungry, she wants to go outside.
Oh.
She's like his brother, so she's.
Praise God for that. I remember when Michael, he was up older than Natalie was, had to have penicillin shots, and it's 2 syringes at the same time where you sit. And the nurses were so proud of Michael, they said, "Kid, you did better than most of the adults we have."
You probably do better than me. I don't like peanuts.
Any other praise
I
reports?
have one too. These special prayer for 2 of my nephews. They're both sick with colds too.
Okay.
So I need special prayer for both of them.
All right. Praise report, Michael let his mom know a day or 2 ago, and he's told me he is back to normal, feeling his good self. He's grateful for that on so many levels, including the fact that this weekend, him and some of the guys are going to go to Denver. We've got a buddy that is going to be getting married, and they're doing the guy's bachelor doings in Denver. And the Airbnb, Michael said, kind of like his was, a lot of video games, maybe a little like pickleball or something. And he's so excited. They're going to take some of the guys, they're going to go to a hockey game. Some of them have never been to one, and he's just pumped. His goal is now is to get his dad into a NHL hockey game. He says, "Dad, if you'll get into hockey, you might get better than baseball or football or basketball." I'm like, "Well, okay, we'll see." But he is doing better. I think the whole team is, and down in the foyer on the big screen with our newsletters, we have a newsletter just came in this week from the Lacanos, one of the other young couples. Michael and Caitlin's is on there. Justin and Marissa Vistides is on there. And I just got a new one today from the Mangums. So we got some new newsletters down there for you to check out and be in prayer for our missionaries. All right.
I'm surprised Michael didn't say it's better than golf, because you guys always golf.
No, he didn't. No. Michael hasn't done a lot of golfing the last years because he doesn't have the money. Golfing. So he's done disc golf. Christian's doing disc golf. That's cheap.
My praise report is I have orientation for work this week, so I'm not working in medical. And usually it's pretty boring, but like this is really fun orientation.
Who's teaching you this?
We have like a lot of different teachers.
Different ones? Okay. All right.
But it's been really fun, like all the days I've gone so far.
Yeah. Well, good. Because I know for the volunteer training that they've done, it's been a while since I've been doing it. Every time I've gone through it after the first time, I was like, we've heard the same stories. Give us something new. Prayer requests. Mention.
Grandma Vita. We need to pray for her.
Yes.
She's not doing okay.
Okay, let's keep Dita in prayer. We met a young man in Amarillo Monday at a store. 22 salesman at the store. We just got to talking with him. He was trying, he's new there, he's trying hard to make the sale. I was this tempted to buy something that I want, but I don't need. Oh, I held off. He was talking about his grandmother, no, his great-grandmother, passed away about 2 years ago at 113. Yeah. He says, I wish I would have, when I was younger, because she developed dementia for about the last 5 years and had a stroke, and so health wasn't too good the last 3 or 4 years. He said, when I was younger, I wish I'd have paid more attention to the stories she told.
Oh, well.
Tape recorder.
But he was so young, you know, didn't think. Any other prayer requests?
I need prayer for my eyes. I don't know whether it's allergies or infection or what, but the redness just will not go away.
That wind and dust will get you. Any others?
We're gonna be traveling this weekend, so just keep us for safe travel.
Yeah, I know. He's gonna make extra work on the pastor because your husband won't be here. Means I gotta come over early on Sunday morning and do everything you do. I've gotten very used to that. I don't say thanks often enough, but Charlie gets here early and gets things opened up and set up and turned on, and it means I don't have to do that most Sundays, so thank you.
We could set it up and then you could just come turn it on.
No, I'm not, no, don't leave the equipment on all that many days. You guys be careful though, safe travels, of course. Any other prayer requests?
I have another one. I have to have bifocals now. So just pray that once I get these new bifocal progressive lit glasses that I can like handle two different.
Are you gonna get actual bifocals, or are you gonna do like my wife and get the what they call progressives that I
I'm
call
getting the
infrared?
progressives.
Okay, be careful, because the first few hours.
You're so vague. No. See,
What are these progressive?
It's, okay, I wear trifocals, and I've got 3 separate lenses. The progressive is just that. You don't have the lines, it simply progresses gradually from one to the other, between all 3 of them. My wife's had it for years, she loves them. That's why you'll hear me joking with my wife that she's more blind than I am. I have trifocals, she has infinite focus, you know, infinity, and so there's,
Wow.
That's what I focus on.
no, I've always had to buy them the trifocals and do well, that's whatever you get used to. Any other prayer requests?
I want to pray for my daughter. She's still going
Okay,
through some things.
okay. There are several, my dad has made note, some people in his church. There's one gentleman there that he has spent several weeks almost nonstop sitting in a hospital room with his son, an adult son who has been intubated and is on life support. Dad's girlfriend's daughter is about to have, due to cancer, have both breasts removed. Be praying there. Thought there was something else and I just lost my train of thought. Keep my wife in prayer. She should be hopefully getting off work soon, but she today has agreed, due to some circumstances in medical, she will be working 4 shifts a week for the next 5 weeks, starting with this one. She's taking every Wednesday for 5 weeks.
Thank
But yours is one, the others. There is a lady that was working in medical as a nurse. She had an accident on horseback that caused her to break her hand. But right after that, she got some other devastating news, and so she will not be returning to the job. Please be in prayer for our medical at the prison. They need nurses, desperately. And also pray for some other circumstances out there. There are other staff that need to step up into their jobs so that medical can do their job better. And we'll leave it at that.
What about the chaplain out there, how's that going?
Chaplain is doing fine, keep him in prayer. He had a surgical procedure last week, and I have not talked to him since that day, but as far as I know, he's doing okay. There were some good things happening. They have been very appreciative of what we provided for the crochet group, thank you. And I do know that, and I'm not sure about all the details, I need to talk to Chaplain. They have decided to shut down the inmate-led church that was for many years and start fresh and new, so.
If you think about, ask them if they're gonna do embroidery,
They're doing crochet.
just, yeah, but I mean, if they thought about,
You know, right
Just
now,
doing right
I'm
now, just
sure they've
embroidery.
got more than they can handle just doing crochet. And that's because they happen to have one or two inmates that like to crochet, so they're teaching the
well, it's
others.
not a whole bunch of them?
There's this group, small group of them,
Oh, wow.
small group of them. Anyone else? Look around at the church family that's here tonight, and every one of us here needs prayer from one another.
We continue to pray for Tim's dad.
Yes.
I found out today he's got a broken face,
Okay.
broken ribs, broken two spots on his back.
Her son's father,
My son's dad.
yeah,
Well,
so let's keep him in prayer. And keep Tim in prayer. Is Tim still back there?
No, he got back us.
He got out last time, okay.
I have another prayer request. My friends that own the art gallery, they just got back from Tucson, and both of them had RVS,
RSV.
RSV, whatever it was, in their lungs, and it was a bad time.
Okay. That goes around this time of year, but several different ones get it. So, all right, anyone else?
I was at Ranch Market, remember Felina and her kids in that big accident? Well, Felina was there with her kids, the ones in the wheelchair. Felina is walking with her dookie, and everything, she's doing good. She still has the discomforts. And her daughter, she says she will be walking, it just a little more time before she starts not using the wheelchair and everything. But they all seem to be good spirits and everything. She's going to church, she's at the Baptist church. And she has been going, as far as I heard.
Okay, let's keep the
But
family
she
in prayer.
needs, yeah, they need prayers to help that healing.
Okay.
well,
Let's keep the family of those two missing ladies in prayer. That's still kind of going on.
Yeah, there was a lot going on across our nation. If you ever think you don't have something to pray about, you're not paying attention.
that's right.
Anyone else? All right. Charlie, lead us in prayer, and we'll get into our study tonight.
Father God, we thank you for you, for your creation, for your love and your strength to us. Lord, we lift up all praise and worship to you, Lord, which is in the one where we receive them. Lord, we lift up all prayer requests for those who are sick and hurting and struggling. Lord, we pray for a blanket of healing over everyone. We ask you to open our hearts and our minds and our souls to receive this word that you have for us today. You bless Pastor Ron with that word. In Jesus' wonderful name. Amen.
Amen.
One thing I did not mention, and I'm not at liberty to give you out full details right now. I'll discuss this with the board, one or two other have been involved in this. We're gonna have a new ministry that we're gonna be starting. It's not a service ministry, it's a ministry to the community, and we'll give more details later. But to get that kind of started, if you happen to know somebody that's got like 2 or 3 things of insulation they don't need, just literally like 2, all they need, and some plywood, scraps of plywood, let me know. And
Fiber,
what?
what did you say, scrap of what?
Plywood.
Plywood.
Sorry, I still have a sheet of that particle board stuff.
Okay, we need two, interior or exterior. Okay. All right, tonight, we're gonna continue on talking about Jacob and Joseph and the family. We're not gonna read the scriptures, we're gonna walk through the story. Look, if you want to get the most out of this, you need to, if we don't read the scripture in class on Wednesday night, you need to go home and kind of read it. We cover it pretty thoroughly. Last week we covered Genesis 37, verses 1 through 11. And for those of you that weren't here, I'll confess to you what I told them last week. Last week I sat down at my computer, started pulling up my resources, and I thought, you know what, we're going to go from Genesis chapter 37, all the way through the end of Genesis 50 in one lesson.
Wow.
I didn't think it did.
Didn't work.
No.
Well, some of you doubted that I could cram all that into an hour. I could, but you wouldn't get as much out of it. The Lord slowed me way down, okay? So we only covered 1 through 11. We'll just quickly go back over that, very briefly. We had finished that long lesson that started and was rooted in Genesis 36 about Esau and his descendants, the Edomites. And we get to 37, and it says, now this is the story of Jacob, also known as Israel, and where he went to live. But immediately, the very next verse or two, it says, and he had a son named Joseph who was 17. And in those first few verses that we looked at last week, Joseph, the 17-year-old, now is he Jacob's youngest? No. He's the second youngest. By the time he's 17, he's still not the youngest. Okay, you put the time frame together, and I looked this up today. Benjamin, his brother, who is younger, Joseph's younger brother, by the time we start the story here, they figured he's probably somewhere around 10 years old. Okay? He's a few years younger than Joseph. He's not the youngest. Joseph is not the youngest. He's the second to the youngest, but he is what? He's Daddy's favorite. And Daddy doesn't help the situation. And there's going to be a few things we're going to pick up in this lesson that kind of caused me to have to stop for a minute and rethink my thoughts about Joseph and his brothers and their ages. For whatever reason, I'm picturing all the other brothers older than him. You know, the oldest was me a whole lot older. But then I began to look at my resources and commentaries and study, and I realized that about the time this whole thing starts to take place, their daddy is old. Okay, because Daddy didn't run off to Uncle Laban's till he was already old by our standards.
About 40.
Oh, wow.
No, he was more like 65 to 70. But his wives were young,
Yeah.
and the two servants, maids, that each wife gave him as a concubine or a second-class wife were fairly young. Keep that in mind when we get to one part of this story, okay? So in all honesty, about the time that this is happening to Joseph, what does he get from Daddy?
A coat of mail.
That highly ornamental coat. We call it the coat of many colors. That made the brothers mad. About the time this all starts to happen, and Joseph then reveals to his brothers what?
His dreams.
His two dreams. Well, he's around 17 when this is starting to take place, and his oldest brother, Reuben, is the oldest. Reuben is only somewhere around between 30 and 35. Now, I'll tell you, that caused me to shift my thinking, because I don't know why I was wanting to make Reuben and one or two of the others, I was wanting to make them like 50, 55, or 60, and it's like, no, wait a minute. You go back and start looking carefully at the genealogy and the time frames, they're not that old. Daddy's very old. They're not. Okay? And so now we get here. Daddy has made them mad by giving Joseph the coat, which basically said, I love him more. He's my favorite. And when it comes time for the reading of the will, you're all going to get a slap in the face because I'm going to leave most of it to him. Who should be getting the double portion? Reuben.
Reuben.
We're going to find out tonight why Reuben lost it. There's a little event that we didn't talk about a few chapters earlier, why Reuben lost out. All right. So here we pick it up. 17-year-old. Hope if I go to the right page. All right. So now we pick up the story. After the dreams, after the coat giving, all of the brothers, except Joseph, and probably not Benjamin, because he's still very young, they're sent off with the sheep, with the flock of sheep and goats, and they're sent off away from the homeland, from where they're living right now. Why is that? Got to go find grass, got to go find water. Can't keep them in that one place. He had too much, and the land couldn't support him. So what we find is that Jacob sends Joseph, who's not in too solid with his brothers to begin with, to check on them. Now, what exactly do you think Daddy meant when he says to Joseph, go find your brothers, see how they're doing, and come tell me how they are? What's he really saying? What?
Snitch on his brother.
Go snitch on your brothers, because you're Daddy's favorite.
Wow.
Now, understand at this point in time, and this is what I was kind of bringing up, these are not little boys, but relatively young men still in their prime. Joseph is the second youngest, somewhere between 17 and 20 years old as all this is happening, with Reuben, the oldest, probably being somewhere between 30 and 35. Again, that's approximate. The Bible doesn't tell us exactly. So Joseph travels, and I've given you this little map. Notice it says here in the little black rectangle, Jacob and family are dwelling near Hebron after having spent time at Bethel, then Bethlehem, where Rachel died and was buried. Let me back up a little bit. Jacob leaves Uncle Laban, and as he's leaving Uncle Laban, who does he meet up with? His brother Esau.
Esau.
And Esau says, brother, I have forgiven you. It's great to see that God has blessed you. God has blessed me. Man, let's just go. You just follow me and go live with me. But Jacob doesn't do that for a lot of reasons. Jacob goes back to the land that had been promised to Abraham and Isaac. Is Isaac still alive at this time? Jacob's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
He is. He's very old. He's still alive. So they go, and he lives first at Bethel. What does the name Bethel mean?
House of God.
House of God. This is where Jacob had, remember when Jacob ran away from home to go to his uncle Laban's? He spent the night there. He used a rock as a pillow. And what was the vision he had?
The ladder.
It was a ladder and stairway to heaven with the angels going up and down. He returns to Bethel where he had met God for the first time in a personal way. He returns to Bethel. He lives there for a while. Then he moves on down to, and in your Bible you'll find a different name for it, but it is the area of Bethlehem. It's while they're living there that Rachel gives birth to the last child that Jacob will father, and that is Benjamin, and she dies. He buries her there, near Bethlehem. I believe if you go on a tour or a visit to the Holy Land at the town of Bethlehem, of course the big draw is, of course, that them pointing out where they think Christ might have been born, the manger and all of that. But you will also find the tomb of Rachel there. So after that, then they moved and have been living around the area of Hebron. Joseph leaves and he goes to where his brothers were supposed to be, which is Shechem. You'll find that on your map. And he gets there and they're not there. Now again, I want you to stop thinking in 21st century mindset. How do you think Joseph probably traveled from Hebron to Shechem?
He walked.
He walked. Unless Daddy gave him a donkey that we don't know about. But even at that, how many of you would like to travel 75, 80 miles on the back of a donkey? Anybody? And probably without a saddle. Maybe a blanket.
It's kind of hard to ride.
Without a saddle, yeah.
No, without a saddle. Have any of you ever ridden a camel?
No,
Where did you ride a camel?
At Camp Air.
A camel? I did it at the Albuquerque Zoo, so they had that nice platform built on it, but it was still weird. And then they had the elephant, and did that too with the platform. Can you imagine riding an elephant without the platform? You think cowboys are bow-legged.
Yeah.
So Joseph has traveled down there, and we kind of get it in our heads sometimes because we're so used to traveling our highway from point A to point B. But Joseph travels from where they have been at Hebron, and he heads in the general direction to Shechem. But when he gets there, it's not like, okay, they're going to be over here at exit 32, so I'll know where that... No, he gets to this region of Shechem, and he wanders around probably... It doesn't say... I'm going to say, I bet he wanders around for at least 2 weeks trying to find them. Hey, I'm Joseph, my brothers are Reuben and Issachar and Daniel and all these guys. Have you seen them? And you're like, no, but it's a big area. I mean, Connie, how would you like to have to be told that you were to go out here and go halfway between here and Springer and find some guys with a bunch of sheep and goats? You know, we in our mindset we go, well, let's just go down the Springer Highway, but the reality is, take that highway out and it's open land. Now, where are you going to go? Down there. It's just like, how many of you have studied and like to see some of the stuff around this area for the Santa Fe Trail? You know, you can still see the ruts and like, but do you understand when we talk about the Santa Fe Trail, it's not this nice little trail like our roads. It actually, there's general areas, but they didn't always follow in the tracks. This is like you also crossed some of the cattle drive trails, the Chisholm Trail. You understand the Chisholm Trail was not this little narrow thing. The cattle did not line up one right behind the other and go along, okay? We're talking about an area. So Joseph gets there and he's wandering around trying to find his brothers. And finally it says that he encounters a man who had heard about them. And he says, I heard them talking. It wasn't good here for them, or are they went into Dothan. And you'll see that on your map. So, what does Joseph do? He follows and he heads to Dothan. The next thing it says though that when his brothers saw him in the distance. Now, how did they know it was him in the distance? Because they did not have binoculars or telescopes yet. Oh.
Wow.
Now, let's stop and think about this a moment. Okay? Sometimes we want to make Joseph out to be the perfect little good two-shoe son, but that multicolored, fancy, ornamental coat should have been left where? At home. But he takes it on this trip to go wandering through the wilderness and through these other villages and towns to find his brothers. So they see him in the distance. Oh, and they decide to throw a party for their brother. No. The Bible tells us in that chapter, in those verses, it says, before he reached them, they plotted to kill him.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Let that soak in. Now, I only have one sibling. I have one brother. He's 8.5 years younger than I am. We give each other a hard time. In fact, he sent me a text today. He says, Happy Sibling Day. He says, Mom told me to always be nice to you because she said you were special. And she always did air quotes around the word special. I wrote him back and he hasn't answered back. I says, well, when Mom talked about you, she just had air quotes and there was nothing in it. So my brother and I do get along quite well.
Wow.
These brothers didn't like little brother. Dad gave you the coat of distinction. Shouldn't be Reuben's. You had the two dreams saying that we're going to bow down to you. Who do you think you are? And let me ask you this. Joyce, do you think this was going to be the first time he ever tattled on his brothers? I can almost guarantee you it wasn't.
Little brothers always tattle. Or sister too.
Notice their nickname for him. That dreamer. Here comes a, let's kill him. And we won't have to worry about his dreams anymore. Can I tell you, and I mentioned this last week, sometimes when God gives you a dream of what He wants to do in your life, not everybody around you is going to be thrilled. And sometimes the ones that will treat you the worst about it will be members of your own family and your own church family.
Yeah.
What a shame. We should support them. I mentioned this last week, I want to mention it again. Those older brothers of Joseph, when he brought to them and came to them and said, this is the dream I had, the right response to them would have been, well, praise God. God's got something big in store for you. Lord, what do you have for me? Because we serve the same God, and He does not play favorites. They felt their best option was to kill him so his dreams would not come true. All right, Reuben, as the oldest brother, tries to come to his aid. He says, guys, he's our brother. Let's not, now, I want you to pay attention to this. Let's not kill him. Let's just put him down in this dry well where there's no water and just leave him.
That killed me.
But they didn't kill him. Nature took its course. But Reuben actually, this was what he was actually thinking. The Bible tells us this. He was going to talk his brothers into, let's put Joseph down in there and leave him. He was going to come back before they headed home, and he was going to rescue him and take him back to his dad. Okay?
Wow.
That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
But why do you think the other brothers failed to listen to Reuben, who, as the oldest, should have been the one in charge and the one responsible for everything and everyone on this journey? The answer is found in Genesis 35:22. Somebody look that up for me quickly. Genesis 35:22.
Because Reuben laid with one of his father's concubines.
Reuben
We don't know about it.
Reuben went in and got caught in bed with, which one is it? Bilhah.
Yes,
And Bilhah, what had been the maid of Rachel. Yeah, it was Rachel's maid Bilhah, and she had borne Jacob, Dan, and Naphtali, sons number 5 and number 6. And Reuben, and now, and see, this is where I kind of go, I was thinking, man, he did this, he was a little man, what was he doing? But again, I had to rethink, I had to readjust my thinking. This possibly happened based on where they were. Reuben was only like late teens, early to mid-20s at the oldest, and he gets caught in bed with Daddy's secondary wife. And they all knew about it.
Well, man.
And Jacob wasn't happy. Can't say that I blame him. Because of that one immoral act, Reuben forfeited his standing among his brothers. We will find out in a few chapters when Jacob is about to die and he calls all of his sons in and he begins to speak blessings over them. He brings it up, and that's where he basically tells Reuben, you don't get what you should have got because of what you did.
Wow.
Right? We see here another point of contention among the brothers, and that's the richly ornamented robe. That robe was a major part of the scheme to rid themselves of this bothersome brother and to convince their father that Joseph was dead. Let's put him in the pit. If we're not going to kill him, let's take that coat of many colors, that robe, and let's butcher an animal, dip it in blood, get it all yuckied up with blood, and take it back to Dad and say, is this your son's? We found it, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. We found on the way, is this your son's? A wild animal must have got him. They're going to get rid of the brother so that the dreams won't come true, but they're also going to get rid of the coat because that
Was there some?
every day. You know, and let's face it, Joseph could have said, you know, guys, I'm sorry Dad feels this way. Look, this is going to be in my closet. I'm only going to bring it out when Dad insists. But I get the feeling that that's not what Joseph did. What did Joseph do?
He didn't told them.
Who's doing the laundry this week? Oh, Naphtali is in here. Can you wash my coat of many colors? No bleach, cold water only, please.
There's a little stinker.
I have a feeling, can I tell you, and we'll get to more of the story in the next few weeks, I think that part of the reason, even though he was being blessed by God, part of the reason that Joseph had to fall so far as to spend some time in Pharaoh's prison is that God needed to humble him a little bit.
Yeah.
Listen, when God is blessing you, it's not so that you can lord it over those around you. You need to approach it with a very humble attitude and ask God to bless others through what He's doing for you.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Next, they come up with a plan to rid themselves of Joseph and profit by it. They sell him as a slave for about 8 ounces of silver. And I looked up, as of today, that's less than $230. Now, Katie, can I get you to come help me a minute? I went over to the next door store because they got a postal meter, and I had Charlie weigh one package of Smith's Miss chocolate, hot chocolate mix. This is one. I want you to take this around now. I want everybody, when she comes to you, I want you to hold out your hand. You will lay it in their hand for just a moment, let them feel it, and you'll take it and go to the next person. This is about 8 ounces. I want you to feel. They sold their brother for gold that only weighed this much, or silver that only weighed this much. And in this day, I checked today's prices, it's less than $230. Start right here. When she comes, just hold out your hand, let her lay it on your hand. That's about 8 ounces right there. Quickly.
Measuring cup is 8 ounces.
That's 8 fluid ounces. This is 8 ounces of weight, not fluid.
Yeah.
Half a pound.
Huh?
Half a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Half a pound.
Half a pound.
It's not much, is it? It's not much to sell your brother. No matter how much of a stinker he might be.
How did they divide it, I wonder?
You know what the thing of it is? No, hand it back to her so she can let everybody else feel it. Those of you that are watching online, if you have hot chocolate packets at your house, go put 5 of them in your hand at the same time. That's about 8 ounces. Did we get everybody? Eloy's the last one?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Thank you, Katie. Great job. You were such a good helper. Hey, whoa, don't leave me hanging. Thank you. So they decide, and we don't know where Reuben goes. Reuben talks him into putting him in the pit, and then Reuben takes off. We don't know where he's gone to for a little while. He goes somewhere, maybe to conduct business or do something. We don't know. Maybe he had a girlfriend in town. I don't know. It doesn't say. Notice who they sell him to. Ishmaelites. Who are the Ishmaelites?
Esau.
No, they're not Esau's.
Ishmael's.
descendants. Their family, if you will. These were descendants of Abraham's oldest son Ishmael. Descendants of these men's great uncle. Where were these Ishmaelites headed? What were they doing?
They were going to Egypt.
Were they shepherds?
No,
No.
they were traders.
Merchants, traders. They're heading by and somehow they see them. And they say, wait a minute, this is saying which brother came up with this. We know it wasn't Reuben. Reuben's gone for a little while. I don't think it was Joseph. I don't think he had a periscope in that pit going, hey guys, why don't you just sell me to them?
No.
They say, hey, here's an idea. We can get rid of the brother and we'll make a little spare change on the side that we don't have to tell Daddy about. We'll sell him to them. They were merchants, they were traders, they traded in anything. I just want to point this out. I don't want to make this a discussion, but I want to point this out. What did they sell him as? A slave. Friends, slavery existed long before it became such a thing in the United States of America, okay? Slavery has been part of the human race for thousands and thousands of years, and it's a shame that it's been that, but let's not think that it started in the 13 colonies that made up our nation, okay? It's been around a lot longer than that. All right. Now, a few verses later, these people are called Midianites or Medanites. Is this a contradiction?
No.
Did Moses get confused when he was writing this?
No.
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 I looked this up. The Midianites may very well have been descendants of Abraham's son Midian, whose mother was Keturah, Abraham's wife after Sarah died. Somebody grab Genesis 25 and read verses 1 through 6, but make sure you like to read Old Testament names. Some of you that have not been here but a few months, have I told you my secret how to say some of those wild Old Testament names?
Genesis what?
Genesis 25, it's in your notes, 1 through 6. Those Old Testament names, you just say them like you know what you're talking about with confidence, and people will think you do. All right, here we go. Somebody else?
Got it.
Go for it.
1 through what?
1 through 6.
Abraham had taken another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Median, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were the Asherites, the Letushites, and the Limnites. The sons of Median were Ephron, Eber, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. All these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham left everything he owned to Isaac. But while he was still living, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them away from his son Isaac to the land of the east.
All right, where did he send all of these children? Now remember, let's back up. He has Ishmael with Hagar. When Hagar and Ishmael were sent away, they were sent away to the east. He has Isaac. Isaac is the son of promise. He has already given much to Ishmael. He gives the bulk of it to Isaac. When he dies, Isaac takes his place as the patriarch of the family. All of these sons, he gives them gifts, and where does he send them? To the east, which means they probably wound up living very close to their biggest, oldest brother, Ishmael. When he calls them Ishmaels in one verse and Midianites in another, the reality is they had probably all come together and had been intermarried so much that you couldn't tell an Ishmaelite from a Midianite, and it didn't matter because they're all related anyway. Notice this that I think. Huh? Oh, I know.
Wow.
Yes. It is most likely that the descendants of these children would have found their way to the Ishmaelites since they were related. And I found this out. Many of today's Arab and Bedouin people claim their family ancestry back to Ishmael and the other 6 sons of Abraham born to him by Keturah. Now, does the Middle East situation we see in our lifetime get even more complicated for you?
Yes.
It's still a family.
It's still a family feud, but there's family members that we don't think about because we don't talk about Keturah and the fact that, okay, get this, Abraham was how old when Isaac was born? What? He was 100. How old was he when Ishmael was born? He was 86. There's 14 years difference. Okay? He has Isaac when he's 100, and the Bible said he was already getting kind of old to be a dad. But once Sarah died, he marries Keturah, and what does he do? He's got 6 more of them, okay?
Oh, man.
There you go.
Wow.
So, and again, I bring that out because there are people out there that will take that kind of a discrepancy. Oh, look, it says Ishmaelites, it says Midianites. See, the Bible doesn't know what it's talking about. He can't even keep it straight for a few verses apart. Again, you got to go back. That's why we're studying the historical side of this.
Wow.
Those Midianites, they were part of Abraham's family too. They hooked up with the Ishmaelites. They were all just together. And notice that they were today's Arabs and Bedouins. What were the Bedouins? Who were they today? What do they do? What are they known for even today?
They're shepherds.
Shepherds, nomadic.
Nomadic people.
Yeah, they still move around that desert area, even to this day. All right? All right, so they sell him. And this is the last we're going to see of Joseph, because next week we're going to start the next chapter, and it takes a break from the story of Joseph. Joseph is sold. Now think about this. He's not a little boy. He's somewhere between 17 and 20 years old. So he's not a little boy. He's a young man. But all of a sudden, he's sold. And I think he probably realizes, you know what? These people are buying me, man. They're family. My brothers just sold me for 8 ounces of silver. At least they didn't kill me. And now they sold me to family, distant family, but family, and then they're taking me down to Egypt.
Wow.
And he has no idea what's going to happen when he gets there. Now we do know this. The sons returned home. And somewhere along the way, they killed an animal, and they dipped the coat of many colors and get it all stained with blood. And they go home and they tell their dad, we found this on our way back. Now, what did I just tell you about the area they were traveling through? Is it a nice, neat little path?
No.
All right, now think about this. If I take my wife's lab jacket that she uses for work, and I go out here, let's say even between Clayton and the Otto Cemetery that's along the highway. You do realize everybody buried there. None of the Otto family was buried there. These were family members of Mr. Otto's shepherds and workers that died years ago. That's when that cemetery came about. Now, if I tell you that I'm going to go out here somewhere between Clayton and the general area of a line drawn north-south through the Otto Cemetery, and I'm going to limit it to 10 miles wide, and I'm going to drop her lab jacket out there somewhere, what's the chances of you finding it? Pretty slim, huh? Yeah, at least 1 million to 1.
Yep.
So they come back to Daddy. Is this your son's coat? We found it on the journey home. Now, why didn't Jacob, of course, Jacob, well, he became distraught. He's old. But why didn't he stop and say, wait a minute, how in the world if a wild animal tore my son Joseph, why did you find the coat pretty much intact, stained with blood, and didn't find your brother's remains to bring home? And how is it that you just happen, in all that area you're traveling, how did you just happen to find that one little coat? He wasn't included. Of course, we have the advantage of what? Hindsight. The sons return home, they show their father the blood-soaked coat and claim they found it on their way home. Jacob identifies it and he begins a period of somewhere between 10 and 13 years where all he does for the next 10 or 13 years is daily mourns over the loss of his favorite son. Now, stop for a moment. The Bible doesn't tell us anything about this, but I want you all to use your imaginations a little bit. All of these brothers thought it was pretty bad watching little brother run around the family camp in that multicolored coat, telling his dreams to them of how great he was going to become. How do you think it was for the next 10 to 13 years watching Daddy sit there and mourn over that brother, knowing that he may not be dead, that you sold him as a slave, but watching Daddy mourn thinking he's dead? How would life have been then?
I was thinking you'd be miserable.
Wow.
Then the chapter ends with this. Joseph is taken to Egypt, and he is sold to a man by the name of Potiphar, who was the Egyptian Pharaoh's captain of the guard. What is the captain of the guard? What does that mean?
He's over
What?
He's in charge.
He's a man of high rank.
Wow.
He is trusted by Pharaoh. If this was Pharaoh's personal miniature army of bodyguards, Potiphar is the man in charge. He's the man that when Pharaoh goes to stand and make a speech, Potiphar is the one standing right there.
Yep.
Now, we've been talking on Sunday mornings in our series on Esther about God's fingerprints and how God, it was last Sunday, right place, right time, right actions. Now, I don't want to jump ahead too far in the story, but I want you to think about this. We don't know how long it took them to travel from Dothan down into Egypt where they went. Okay, it wasn't, they didn't hop on a 747 and fly over right quick. We don't know how many other places they stopped to trade and sell goods, buy goods. Several weeks, I'm sure, went by. They get there, and in Joseph's mind, this is not the right place. It is not the right time. But we're going to see that he began to understand if God has placed you there, it must be the right place and the right time. Therefore, you must have the right behavior and actions.
Wow.
I'm anxious to get to the part where I tell you what was going on in Egypt a little bit during this time frame of Joseph's life before he got there. I saw this in my research, and I can't wait. I'm going to wait to share it with you later. But you're going to see God's hand at work. No, in Egypt's life. Preparing for Joseph. All right, any questions, thoughts, comments? Does that kind of give us a little better viewpoint of what was going on? We tend to forget. Like I said, I know Abraham married another woman and had kids, but we tend to kind of forget about them. But yeah, guess what? They're still part of the story. We spend all that time on the Edomites, and they play a big role in Israel's history all through the Old Testament. We kind of forget about the Ishmaelites. And yet here they play a very important role. Thoughts, questions, comments?
So that $230 is split one way, is $25?
Let's see. There's 12 brothers, 10.
So it'd be about 23, yeah.
Reuben would have gotten part of it. And nothing else. Well, Reuben, here's your share. Now, come on, you want this. You got to keep your mouth shut. Don't tell Daddy. $28 to carry around with you for how long? The fact that you just sold your little brother and you're going to break Daddy's heart. Hardly worth it.
Wow.
I mean, I don't care how much of a stinker your siblings are. $28. Huh? 23. No, I'm sorry, 230. You're right. Yeah, $23. Yeah, it's just getting worse by the moment.
You had to be very hard-hearted.
It's like last night, my wife, I was watching a ball game on the computer, and my wife went to Hulu to watch an episode of I Love Lucy, and it's where they find the dollar that they can turn it into the newspaper to win the $300, and he gets half of it, he gets torn in half of it gets sent to the laundry with Ricky and Lucy's laundry, so they go to try to get it back, and when they finally show up in the newspaper, just in the nick of time to get the $300, Ricky tells Fred and emphasis, now, there were some expenses here, you said we'd pay it out of the winnings. And he starts listing it off, $50 for the cab, this much for this much for that. And when all was said and done, they ended up with the dollar they started with.
Oh, that,
It makes me wonder what the brothers did with that silver. How long did they hold on to it? And every time they looked at it, thought about using it for something, did their conscience start to bother?
I would think.
Oh, I think we're gonna find out in a few chapters that in reality, they carried this in their conscience and their conscience bothered them for a long time.
that's because they went to be for a good long
Yeah,
while,
they
yeah.
did.
They had to,
It did.
because
Joyce, will you dismiss us in prayer?